Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig Sports, and this is the NFL DFS Core Pick video for Week 12. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going through my core picks on both DraftKings and FanDuel. It's going to be one player at each position, so quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defense. You don't necessarily have to play all five together, but they are 5 recommendations that I do like for this week overall, given their price tag, given their matchup. But if you're looking for more additional advice beyond this, be sure to check out my NFL DFS cheat sheets that I do put out for free for both sites. You can find them on the YouTube community tab, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Blue Sky, and on the sports affiliation website. We'll also be leaving them down in the comment section of this video as well. And then if you're looking for a little bit more in-depth player pool beyond that, feel free to check out my Patreon page. Very small monthly donation over there, and you get access to my NFL DFS player pools every week throughout the season, as well as my NBA DFS initial player pools headed into the day, Monday through Friday. So definitely some good resources out there. But without further ado, we'll get right into it. We're going to start off on the DraftKings side at the quarterback position. And I'm going with Jalen Hurts on the DraftKings side. He is going against Dallas Cowboys, so a very, very good matchup there just in general. Comes in at $6,600, averaging just over 20.5 fantasy points per game. Definitely do like his upside in this matchup. You know, that Dallas defense has really struggled mightily this year. Jalen Hurts probably due for a bounce back game at this point in time, so definitely do like getting to him. But there are quite a few quarterbacks in attractive matchups this week, so definitely feel free to mix and match, especially if you're building out multiple lineups. And then we're going to move down to running back. I went with the paydown option here in Kareem Hunt. Comes in at $5,100. Currently averaging just under 9.5 fantasy points per game. Obviously, early on in the year, they had Isaiah Pacheco, and him and Pacheco were kind of splitting reps back and forth. But since Pacheco's been down, he's out once again this week. Kareem Hunt's been doing really well. Double-digit points, I think, the last 3 weeks. So I definitely do like his upside in this matchup. Goes against the Colts defense. That's kind of hit or miss, kind of depending on the game. But definitely do like the upside of Kareem Hunt, especially if this game ultimately ends up being a little bit of a shootout. And then we move down to wide receiver with A.J. Brown coming in at only $5,900. And this is the cheapest price tag I can remember A.J. Brown being at for probably at least 4 years. So I definitely do like it taking advantage of this plus matchup going against Dallas Cowboys. Stacking them alongside Jalen Hurts definitely makes a lot of sense there. Only averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season, so it's been a down season for him. But at the same time, could very much be a get-right game for A.J. Brown and company. You know, if you want to play Devonta Smith or like Dallas Goedert instead, you could definitely do that alongside Jalen Hurts. If you want to go ahead and stack a couple of receiving options alongside Jalen Hurts, definitely does make some sense there as well. And then we're going to move down to tight end with Travis Kelce. He comes in at $5,000, playing really, really well the last 2 games. So definitely do like that upside there. It goes against the Colts, who have been pretty bad against the tight ends so far this season. So like the matchup at the same time as well. Averaging about 14 fantasy points per game. Definitely do like that strong upside that he's shown the last 2 weeks, and hopefully a trend that continues once again this week overall. And then last but not least, in terms of the defense, we're going to go with the Browns going against the Raiders, who have struggled quite a bit this season. Their most recent game, they struggled even more. They come in at $2,900. If they can get some pressure on Geno Smith, that they can stop the run, should be a very advantageous spot for them once again. And with that being said, the Browns are currently averaging 8 fantasy points per game, kind of as a pay down option. But if we get double-digit points out of them at $2,900, should be a really good value there overall. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $24,500 remaining, just over $6,100 remaining per player. So at least early on, it looks a little bit more like a balanced build. But you know, if you want to pay down at like tight end to someone else, you can do that. If you want to pay down at one of your wide receiver spots, you can open up some more money at the same time as well. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there as well. So on the FanDuel side, we're going to go with Drake May at quarterback. He comes in at $8,400. On DraftKings, he was the most expensive quarterback. On FanDuel, he's, I believe, the 3rd most expensive. So a little bit of a discount here. Goes against Cincinnati Bengals. Should be a very attractive matchup there. Currently averaging just under 21 fantasy points per game. You know, the last 2 or 3 games have been kind of down for him just in general. Part of that, the last 2 games, is Trevion Henderson's just been getting a lot of touchdowns. So that does ultimately end up hurting Drake May just a little bit. But if they go back to the passing game once again, they rely on him just a little bit more, especially if this game ends up being a shootout. Definitely could be a monster week for Drake May and company. Then we move down to running back. I'm going with Derrick Henry here, coming in at $8,400. Currently averaging just under 14.5 fantasy points per game. Was a slow start to the season for him. Since Patrick Ricard's been back, he's been doing a little bit better. And then they do go against the Jets, who have struggled quite a bit versus the run so far this year. And, you know, they did lose Quentin Williams as they did trade him away. So that run defense should be a little bit softer than it had been earlier on in the season. I definitely do expect the Ravens to have a pretty decent sized lead most of the games. So they should be relying on Derrick Henry, especially later on in the game. So that definitely could pad his stats a little bit more at the same time as well. And then in terms of wide receivers, went with the stack here with Stephon Diggs coming in at $6,700. He's been looking really good so far this year coming off that ACL. He's been looking a little bit more spry in recent weeks. I definitely do like the matchup going against Cincinnati Bengals, as well as stacking him with Drake May. Ton of upside to be had there. Comes in at $6,700, averaging just over 11 fantasy points per game, but I definitely think he has a ton of upside for even more than that in this matchup overall. Then we move down to tight end, going to Travis Kelce here at $6,000, going against the Indianapolis Colts, who have struggled quite a bit so far this season, going against the tight end position in terms of fantasy points allowed. Travis Kelce back-to-back big weeks, so I do kind of expect it to be a trend that continues, especially if this game ultimately does end up being a shootout. Obviously, if you want to pay down to a different tight end, definitely do understand that. A lot of great tight end options out there this week overall. And then last but not least, we're going to go with the Raiders defense. They come in at $3,700. They're averaging just over 4 fantasy points per game. So they're not the greatest defense in the world by any means, and they haven't done great so far this season, but they are going against the Cleveland Browns. Shedeur Sanders, whether you hate him, whether you love him, it's his first career start. His first full week again, first rep practices. I know that's been a big talking point for a lot of different people, but he still is a 5th-round pick, a rookie making his debut. It is an advantageous spot. That offensive line is not the greatest, or they have not performed the greatest so far this year. So if Max Crosby can get after him, could be a long day for that Cleveland Browns team just in general. And if the Raiders can stop the run, could make them a little bit more one-dimensional. Probably going to be a pretty ugly game either way, but look like a very, very interesting pay-down option at $3,700. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $26,800 remaining, about $6,700 remaining per player. So maybe a little bit more like a balanced build the rest of the way from here. Obviously, if you want to pay down from Derrick Henry at running back, if you want to pay down from Travis Kelce at tight end, that could open up a little bit more money at the same time as well. Otherwise, we could look for some pay down options, whether that's at running back or wide receiver for the rest of our lineup, to have the ability to spend up a little bit more at a different position. But should make for a very interesting slate this week for week number 12, as there are quite a few attractive matchups out there this week. Should be some high-scoring games, should be some slugfest where there's not a lot of points scored, so going to make for a very, very interesting football slate. But with that being said, these are my core picks for both DraftKings and FanDuel for week 12. As always, if you have any questions related to NFL DFS, be sure to drop them down in that comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then once again, if you're looking for more additional advice, be sure to check out my NFL DFS cheat sheets for both sites. They are 100% free. You can find them on the YouTube community tab, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Blue Sky, and on the Sports Affiliation website. We'll also be leaving them down in the comment section of this video as well. So a great resource out there. If you're looking for a little bit more in-depth player pool, feel free to check out my Patreon page. Very small monthly donation over there, and you get access to a little bit wider player pool, which could be a little bit helpful this week overall, as there are a lot of teams that are in attractive matchups. But with that being said, if you're brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have NBA DFS Core Pick videos, typically Monday through Friday. I got my NFL DFS Core Pick video coming out once a week, and that either comes out on Friday or Saturday. It varies a little bit week to week, just kind of based on the rest of my schedule. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS and PrizePicks. If you're a brand new user to either one of those sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For PrizePicks, it's a 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's a 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for this week's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. It definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NFL DFS for week 12.